Whoever did not do so attracted the fury of the National Socialists. At first, there were nasty words, sometimes a beating, but soon enough it led to the first arrests.
In 1934, secret witness reports smuggled out of Germany revealed disturbing facts.
About 4,000 house searches have been carried out, 1,000 arrests made, of which some 400 have been sent to concentration camps, and roughly 200 cases of ill treatment occurred. Each blow was accompanied by the words, "Do you still believe in Jehovah?"
Nazi intimidation affected not only the witnesses' religious life, but also their livelihood.
Before they were directly arrested and sentenced by the special courts to imprisonment and later to protective custody, they had already suffered under economic and social sanctions. The loss of their jobs, their businesses were boycotted, or their pensions or unemployment money was confiscated.
A typical letter of dismissal said,
"Following your refusal to use the German greeting, your contract of employment is terminated."
Yes, I lost my job, and here I was. Now we had a lot of time for preaching.
Children were drawn into the battle. 6-year-old Paul Gerhard Kusserow, like other witness children, was pressured by students and teachers.
As soon as I entered school, the head teacher and the pupils confronted me and tried to make me say Heil Hitler, to salute the flag and to sing Nazi songs. Going to school was not nice, since one never knew what would happen.
More than 800 children were taken away from their witness parents by the Gestapo. Paul Gerhard, along with his brother and sister, was placed in a Nazi school. 3 years under ban, and the witnesses are still active. The Gestapo have to mobilize a special unit to hunt them down. A confidential Gestapo report boasted that in just one sweep, they arrested 120 witnesses.
Jehovah's Witnesses were amongst the first of the prisoners to go into Dachau, which was the so-called model concentration camp, and into the labour camps. And I have evidence of that in 1934, and certainly by 1935.
From 1935 onward, very many Jehovah's Witnesses were in National Socialist prisons and camps. Pre-war, about 5 to 10% of concentration camp inmates were Jehovah's Witnesses. Apart from the concentration camps, there were Jehovah's Witnesses in almost all prisons.
Of my family of 8 persons, 6 were in detention. 4 brothers, 1 sister, and my mother. Together, we spent about 43 years in detention.
From 1937 on, witnesses released from prison were sent directly to concentration camps. By the end of that year, 6,000 witnesses were in Nazi prisons and camps.
Starting in 1937, Jehovah's Witnesses were given a purple triangle as a sign. Jehovah's Witnesses were the only religious group that made up a separate category of inmates.
And the triangle was relatively big, so that a person must have been able to see it from quite a distance. And the color also, this stigma of the prisoner's category.
Whenever I saw a prisoner with a purple triangle, then I knew for sure this is a sister. It helped me to recognize that this is one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
The Jehovah's Witnesses received especially severe treatment from the SS because they put up such great resistance, because in their conduct they displayed much resistance.
Und bei meiner Einlieferung
Upon arrival, I was beaten into unconsciousness in the political section.
bewusstlos geprügelt,
When I came to, I could spit out my teeth.
habe ich meine Zähne ausspucken können. Die erste Nacht hätte ich nicht
I would not
überlebt,
even have survived the first night if Brother Erich Nikolaichich, who was next to me in bed, had not taken me into his arms and warmed me with his own body so that I recovered somewhat.
seinem Körper gewärmt, dass ich wieder Leben in mich bekam.
The Bible students were the very first among the very first women who came here from other camps, from the concentration camp Moringen am Sollau and especially from Lichtenburg near Torgau. The first arrivals here at Ravensbrück in May 1939 were, contrary to what was believed until now, not mainly political prisoners, but as we now know, mostly Bible students.
The Nazis, obsessed with breaking the witnesses' stubborn commitment, stepped up the psychological assault and made them an extraordinary offer. Each witness could buy his freedom for a price, his signature and his faith. Witnesses in prisons and camps were repeatedly handed a piece of paper and a pen. Very few signed.
When I was to be released from prison, I was given a paper to sign. It required that I give up my faith and recognize the German government as the highest authority, place myself under the Hitler government, and consider the Bible as a false doctrine. I said, that's out of the question.
Madame Geneviève de Gaulle, a niece of General Charles de Gaulle, was imprisoned by the Nazis in 1944 as a member of the French resistance. In Ravensbrück, she met Jehovah's Witnesses. By the time she arrived at the camp, many had been captive for 10 years.
What I admired a lot in them was they could have left at any time just by signing a renunciation of their faith. Ultimately, these women, who appeared to be so weak and worn out, were stronger than the SS, who had power and all the means at their disposal. They had their strength, and it was their willpower that no one could beat.
Many witness couples were separated for years, like Heinrich and Enna Dickmann. When they discovered that they were both in the Ravensbrück camp, they risked their lives just to see each other.
From Buchenwald, I was put in the camp where Enna was. And there is where I had the chance to see my wife again after 7 years. She had to bring laundry for the SS to the main gate, and I had to pick it up there. And so we had the chance to see each other after 7 years, but without a word. Since they were standing in the guard tower watching, they would have hanged us both.
The position of the Jehovah's Witnesses is a unique position of Christians, of all kinds in Nazi Germany. It stands by itself. People living in Germany knew who the Jehovah's Witnesses were and knew what they stood for.
Totalitarian rule is the product of Satan.
From the beginning, Jehovah's Witnesses and their publications spoke out against Nazi aggression. In the English language Golden Age, blunt editorial cartoons expose the spreading cancer of Nazism. In 1934, the Golden Age carried a stinging expose of the Nazi crackdown on the witnesses, including raids, arrests, and sentences to concentration camps. The 1934 Basel Convention marked a turning point for the witnesses. plans were set for a worldwide protest directly to Hitler on October 7th. German witnesses met in secret.
On that day, at 9 o'clock in the morning, all of Jehovah's Witnesses congregated together in small groups. Jehovah's Witnesses all over the world would send a telegram to the Hitler government.
Your ill treatment of Jehovah's Witnesses shocks all good people of earth and dishonors God's name. Refrain from further persecuting Jehovah's Witnesses. Otherwise, God will destroy you and your national party.
Hitler did not budge, but he did react. In a sworn statement, government official Karl Wittig described Hitler's rage. He screamed, "This brood will be exterminated in Germany." A steady stream of Watchtower literature continued to flow into Germany. The Gestapo tightened the net, making more arrests. Whenever the Nazis smashed an underground organization, another quickly filled the breach.
The Gestapo reckoned that every time they arrested a group, we were completely finished. They were utterly mistaken. But right up until the end of the war, the Watchtower was being distributed all over Germany.
The 1936 Summer Olympic Games in Berlin. Nazi Germany is on display at its best. But it is only a front. Right on the heels of the Olympic Games, the witnesses launch a campaign to reveal the ugly face of the Nazi regime. Nazi persecution is exposed in a convention resolution adopted at Lucerne, Switzerland. 200,000 copies of the Lucerne resolution are distributed in Germany on one December night in 1936. March 1938, Hitler's troops crossed the Austrian border. Soon, the witnesses would be forced underground in country after country. Key organizers, Erich Frost, Arthur Winkler, and others, put their lives on the line for their fellow believers as they tried to keep one step ahead of the Gestapo.
At night, in a small apartment, we shut off the windows with blankets, put quilts on the table and the machines on the quilts, so that the noise would not be heard. It was here that the watchtowers were translated and reproduced. Afterwards, we had to dismantle and hide everything, because if the Germans had found any of the equipment, it would have meant the death of whoever the material belonged to.
Another conduit for smuggling literature into Germany was a Finnish doctor, Felix Kersten, Himmler's personal physician. Kersten's estate, Hartswalde, was near Ravensbrück. He used his connections with Himmler to get prisoners to work on his farm.
Then, through Himmler, Dr. Kersten tried to obtain some Jehovah's Witnesses. And he was able to, because Himmler did a lot for Kersten.
Kersten took prisoner Annie Gustafsson to his home in Sweden as a maid. There she could obtain the Watchtower freely. Kersten offered to carry literature secretly to his witness workers at Hartswalde. The magazines were smuggled between Hartswalde and the nearby camps, Sachsenhausen and Ravensbrück. Thus, the birth of another communication network. The book, Crusade Against Christianity, was published